Hey there, YouTube land. Big Dave here. Happy New Year 2017. And here we are, starting off the new year. You can see we had a lot of food here, right? So we're recycling all this aluminum pans and all that stuff. So I thought I would just start the new year off with some viewer questions. And a couple different things. Like, first of all, I had a question about biting and, you know, getting pain in the lip and all this kind of stuff. You know, a lot of times, if I had to pick just one thing to say why that's happening, it's that your air support is not good. It's weak. The more air you're using, the less you're going to be pressing or pushing and all that kind of stuff. Maybe your reed is a little bit too hard. And, you know, the thing is, years ago when I was studying with some really great teachers in New York, one of the teachers used to teach that to release the pressure, you would take your top teeth off the mouthpiece when you took your breath. So, in other words, your mouthpiece is in. Okay, so you release the whole thing. You know what that also does is if you have your head pressure on the mouthpiece, you know, a lot of players put pressure here and then they drop their head down.
Leading the Vienna Philharmonic in his
How do you play like that? I don't know. But there were some really great players years ago that played like that, put their head down. And some of the greatest players played with their head down. But as soon as you pick your head up, it's almost automatic what happens. You're allowing the air, which is moving like this, to go where it belongs and operate properly. Once you drop your head down, you're working against some other force. So, once your head is on here and you're pushing and all this stuff, you know, it just creates a whole bunch of issues. So you have to try to keep your head up and put the mouthpiece a little bit behind your teeth and use air, you know, but use low air. And when you breathe properly and you breathe out properly, almost as if you want to blow out candles or whatever, forceful air. You know, another thing you can practice is very short staccato bursts, like, oh, hold on a second here because this ligature is kind of loose. So, you see? Short, powerful bursts. You can do that on your horn too. You don't have to just do it on the mouthpiece. But if you do it on the mouthpiece, it gives you the most, like, the purest idea of what it is that you need to do. Because when it's just on the horn, it's easier to work with bad habits. As soon as you put it on the horn, everything becomes easier. Like, I could take that same head down position that right now I'm not hardly even getting a sound out of. And if I put the neck on, I'll start to get a sound. So the thing is, that's why, you know, Joe Allard used to have the students practice interval scales, things like that on the mouthpiece alone. You know, when I went to him for a clarinet, which was a long time ago, you know, we were practicing just with the mouthpiece. And then later on we were doing some other stuff with the 12ths and things like that. So here you have the same issue, right? You just practice making a good sound on the mouthpiece, finding your proper head position, and a lot of this biting and all this other stuff will go away. So this biting sometimes is because of another reason. You just want to get some control over using the mouthpiece, by itself. It'll make the dog crazy, might make the neighbors crazy or the people you live with. I don't know. Now look, another thing is, somebody asked me about, they have trouble holding out phrases and long air control. There's a couple of reasons for that too. If you're breathing up here, this is a very short breath when you're breathing high. If your shoulders are going up, you're breathing high. If your abdomen is expanding, see, my shoulders aren't even moving. I'm breathing from down here. I'm not even going to use that word diaphragm, because the diaphragm works by itself. You're not really making your diaphragm work. So you can read about that in an anatomy book, but you're not really you're not creating the diaphragm. It's just working by itself. You take the breath in, your diaphragm works because of what you just did. You're not making your diaphragm work. That's another thing. Joe Allard, he'll just sit there I know, because there's still that one video around of him, and he'll tell you that diaphragm is, I don't know what he calls it, baloney or something, and but anyway, it's where you're breathing from, and you're filling out down here. It's how you're taking that breath, and then you have enough air for you to release the air and control over it too. I encourage you to go and turn on those Joe Allard videos and watch them. There's a few things on there. I think it's like on the third one where he has the clarinet and he's moving the mouthpiece a little bit. That's when I went there. That's what we were doing. And 12ths, but he doesn't have those on the video. But I encourage you to watch the video. Watch Allard himself talk about some of this stuff. Even though, there's 4 videos, I think. The Joe Allard, the Master Speaks. And some of those things, he did with some people and didn't do with other people. He didn't do the same thing. About 4 of my friends at the time were studying with him, and some of us were doing stuff that the other one wasn't even doing. Like I didn't do this with him, with the that was somebody else. However, I had a friend of mine who was studying with him all the time, and he had him doing that all the time, releasing the facial mask or whatever you want to call it, because this is like some people call this the mask, the facial mask. So and another thing is too, here, be conscious of what you're doing with this. If you're getting a lot of I guess the biting, the pain is down here. I just go back to the same thing I said before. The air will prevent a lot of that. You almost don't need any pressure at all whatsoever. You just put this in. If I have very weak airflow, look. Nothing. There's not even a sound. I'm not pressing at all here. I'm just laying this on it. Now watch. I'm not changing a single thing here with the pressure. I'm just using more and more pressure behind the air. So you have a combination of a little bit of squeezing, not biting, a little bit of squeezing, and the air, and try not to squeeze the corners up, because that's where the soft part of the reed is. So then you get this. See, then you're blowing on the middle of the reed. What you want is to have yourself focused more in the center, and see what happens. The thick part of the reed is in the middle. I've showed you this before too, but I know, I don't even want to get into it, but there's reasons why, my haters come in, but here's the thing. this here, this is where if you just push on the center of the reed goes in flat. You push on the corners and the reed goes like this. Okay? So if you're squeezing up, this is what you're doing. You do this and learn to control that center. That's like a little magic point there. You know, if you just learn, you can also just practice finding that place and learning to focus on that one place. When you use inside, also you play your intervals. Right? When you learn to control those intervals and things. And I'm not saying I am right now either. I would have to sit at the piano and really focus on them and spend time working on those. So the answer to the air support is pretty much that. If you're losing your sound and stuff, you might be breathing, you know, very tall up here, shallow, that kind of breathing. You need to breathe, you know, from down in the abdomen area and really feel the rib cage expand down and the belly expand. Then you're working that area. And like I said, I'm not even going to get into that diaphragm thing. So another question was about things to practice, you know, here. So this is a good book. You can use it on the clarinet. These are the violin dot studies. You can play these on the saxophone, but some of them, like this one is fine, but some of them go down to like A. So there's a little tricky stuff in there. But this is always, I mean, this is great stuff. You know, I mean, you can work with this. Some of these guys here, you know, but all these, and again, these are violin studies. But this is, if you're looking something a little bit different to work on. Now on the clarinet, this is good because it goes down to G. The lowest note on the violin, unless it's retuned for some reason, is G. So the violin studies are not going to go below the G. They're not going to go down. But you'll get your pinky keys in on the clarinet with, you know, once you get into the mid-range, there's plenty of stuff that goes through the mid-range, and you'll be using your side keys. So this is a great little book. On the saxophone, you have to adapt it a little bit because they're not all going to fall in the range of the saxophone. Like here's number 21. For the most part, this one pretty much does. It goes down to a B. And here's an, oh, that's B flat, A sharp, right? I'm looking at this backwards. So, but there, I would, you know, check that out. And that's it, you know? So I hope this is helpful. And that it makes some kind of sense. And there'll be, I'm going to in the future, I think I'm going to put up like a couple of songs that, you know, we could try and see how they work out. That's a thought I have for 2017. And I appreciate your messages and the support and all that kind of stuff. And I hope you have a great, happy New Year, a healthy New Year. And we'll just keep on the road here. Okay, have a great day.